I am so excited to be on here live discussing this topic with you guys. So, gardening motivation. Why I used to hate gardening and why I love it now. So, I grew up gardening in the deep south, quote unquote. Gardening used to be one of the things that I enjoyed doing as a little child growing up. I had a garden hoe and my dad had this huge garden. We used to grow so much food and it was fun, but as I got older, I just kind of got tired of it, and the summer heat in Alabama just made it just excruciating sometimes. And the funny thing about that is that now I'm in Texas and it's a lot worse. So whatever I was fussy about as an adolescent, it can't be any worse than what this is now. But yeah, so gardening motivation. Are you starting a garden, or are you thinking about starting a garden and you don't know what to do or where to start? The most important thing to do is to start. So start with something that you like. So like, say for instance, like I like butternut squash. So I got some butternut squash seeds. Now, even though I grew up gardening, I haven't gardened in a long time. It's been about 5 years since I took care of a garden, and that was a small one at that. We kind of got away from gardening probably around the time that I was 14, and yeah, so now I'm back in the game and I'm really excited about doing this again. And I want to, I really appreciate some of my friends and stuff that have shared their gardening experiences, because that helped me get back motivated again to start gardening. So I'm like, you know what? All these people are getting into gardening and I grew up gardening, so there's no way that I can't do it. Like, I grew up doing this. So it's time for me to get back to my roots and start gardening again. One of the things that I enjoy a lot about gardening is the reward of seeing your labor in the form of food. So I have one of the favorite things that I loved growing. Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for watching and commenting, Mackie. One of the things that I loved growing in the garden was watermelons. And yeah, we all need some motivation, right? Gardening, it seems like it's a lot of work, and to a degree it is, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it to be able to see that little watermelon start growing, and knowing that you put in that work to see that watermelon decide to grow. And that's why it's so rewarding. Like, I think some of the hardest part is getting started, because once your garden is set up and it's started, that's it. Like, all you have to do at that point is just make sure that it stays watered. And if you live in a hot or humid climate, then sometimes that can be a little bit tricky. But and it can be even more trickier with containers, containers. So the most important thing is to start, because like, really, you can do it. Like, you won't be the first person to learn how to garden, and you're not the first person to learn, and you won't be the last to learn. So if you have like an apartment or something, you don't have a house, then maybe you could start with something simple as a tomato plant or some herbs. But the goal is to just grow something, get used to growing some type of food or some type of herb that's contributing to your well-being, because sometimes you can't always trust the food out here. You don't know what you're getting. You just have to pray over it and trust that it's going to be fine. And you can even still garden, and it may not turn out as great as you like, but you know what, at least you tried. And to try and to start is so much better than not trying and not starting at all. So I have here some winter squash seeds. This is the acorn squash. I also have butternut squash and onions. Now, some people may say, oh, well, it's past the season for onions, like you can't grow onions now anymore. It really, so I'm in Texas, and on this little chart back here, it says that the zone that I'm in, I'm supposed to plant onions from February to April. Now, this is the kind of stuff, these little charts is kind of sometimes what people become discouraged about, because it's like, oh, well, I got these outside of the season. Should I still grow them? And if it's summertime, my answer is emphatically yes, you should still grow them. Like still grow, because you know what, it would be better to grow than not grow. And I'm also growing like so many other things. There is some stuff out there, and I'm going to do a whole nother video and show you the tour of the things that I'm growing. But yeah, I just wanted to come on here and talk to you a little bit about the fact of starting a garden and how rewarding it can be for you. And just to, you know, encourage you to do it, because, you know, it's gardening. It's going to be rewarding no matter what. So now that I've given my little spill on gardening, I have some plants. I have some plants that I need to repot. So here I have this Scindapsus exotica. That one's like root bound. I'm just starting to learn to grow from seed. Oh, that's a wonderful thing. So yeah, once you've planted your seed, and you want to try to keep your soil moist, so like try not to let it dry out, because it's going to help the seeds germinate faster. And you know, some stuff people tend to grow inside starting out from seed, but where I am, like I can start these outside now, and most of it will be just fine. In fact, it's really better to start squash and watermelon and those kind of things like outside, because inside it's not really going to do as much benefit. And plus, the soil should be warm when it comes to growing fall and winter squash. What do you want to grow? For the person who left that comment, do I really need a heat pad or just a regular light? Well, okay, to answer that question, where do you live? Because that's gonna determine how I answer that question. So like you're starting with Boston ivy. Okay, cool. Like I'm in Southeast Texas, and that's zone 9. So I can pretty much plant anything right now and it'll grow, because it doesn't really get whole here until, oh, you're in Louisiana. Okay, so you're probably pretty close to, we're in a pretty close similar climate. Yeah, if you start that, if you started outdoor, it's gonna be fine with no problem, because the light from the sun is going to help generate the germination faster. And even if it were indoors, like the germination process is dependent on light and the seed remaining moist during that time until it like starts sprouting out. So yeah, you can definitely grow that. You should have no problem at all. But yeah, so I got this Scindapsus that I need to repot, and I can tell because of the roots growing from the bottom of the pot. And I've also got, I've got this Calathea zebrina. Oh yeah, you're very welcome. Very welcome. Any more questions, just ask me and I'll be happy to help. I've got this Calathea zebrina. I thought this was, I didn't know what this one was called for a long time. I called it a green tiger, but Now that I've heard it called Zebrina, you know what? This pattern does kind of remind me of a zebra. I'm gonna repot this one because it's definitely growing out, and I gotta repot it before it starts going bad on me. And then I have this. Oh, look at this, and that's adorable. This is the pink Syngonium. And I also have my large croton, the one that did that large, that video where I have a bunch of music playing in the background, and I didn't realize that it was that loud for you guys. So my apologies if you saw that video. I also have this. Look at this. This is a, oh, I forgot what this one is called. Okay, it'll come to me. This is a pothos. This is the Moonlight, the Truby Moonlight. That's what this is. I got this cutting from a lady near where I live, and I gave her my cast iron plant because I didn't want it anymore, and she gave me a cutting of this thing. So I've been trying to find this plant for a really long time, so I was so happy to get a cutting, and that's been a little bit over 2 months ago. So she got that, and she gave me this cutting, and it's been growing in water. And so look, here's the roots. Isn't this nice? Hi, Layla. Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining. So I've got this, and it's ready to go in some soil. Every cutting I have tried has died since I've tried honey, water, etc. Interesting. I'm sorry that the cuttings haven't worked out, but I will tell you, you are not the only one, because I tried some cuttings. I tried to propagate some crotons from leaf cuttings, and it did not work. And I haven't been able to get those to work, but I've been able to get these pothos cuttings to work really well. So some stuff works, and some stuff you just, I don't know. Some stuff is just really temperamental. Oh, and I also have this philodendron silver sword. It wasn't doing too hot in the pot that I had it in, so I think it wants to be repotted. And I also what was I gonna say? This one was propagated. This was a stem. This was actually a lot bigger, but I propagated this into this. So over time, it developed these roots, and I really want it to grow like bushier. And I know philodendrons are vining, but I want this to be like more full. So it's kind of like just growing off this top, whereas I want it to like grow from here. But for some reason, I don't know. It may or may not do it. Who knows? So I guess what I will start with is I'll start with this pothos cutting. So yeah, if you're just now joining in, thank you so much for joining in the chat. I made this live stream to just kind of talk about gardening and why I used to hate it some growing up. I liked it, but I hated it. It was like, I like seeing the stuff grow. I like seeing the watermelons grow. I like seeing the corn grow. I like seeing the cantaloupes and all the other stuff grow. But I was just so exhausted with kind of the process of it, because it was a lot, and it was hot outside, and the garden was really far from the house. So I was just, you know what, try to teach a 13-year-old, probably the average 13-year-old, to garden nowadays, and they'll be like, it's hot outside. And that's how I was. But when I was little, I loved it. I was like, oh, wow. So now I'm kind of getting back into, you know, my roots of learning, of enjoying gardening again, and, you know, realizing the bigger picture of it. And the bigger picture of it is growing your own food and enjoying the fruits of your labor, literally. Enjoying the fruits of your labor. So I challenge you today to grow something that you like to eat or you like to use. Like perhaps it may be an herb, it may be watermelon. And you know what? If you even just started with one watermelon plant, that's a lot, because watermelons cost like $10, $12 at the store sometimes, or when it's watermelon season, like watermelons cost a grip because they're big and they're heavy. And like Skinny Boy, oh good, that's awesome. Yes, grow what you eat. And you know, it's like how, what's his name, Skinny Boy Randy, he be like, don't nobody got no money for that when you can grow your own food. If you know Randy, you know what I mean. I just love him so much. He's so funny. But yeah, so grow what you eat for sure. You tried blackberries last year. I'm growing some blackberries now, and I'm gonna do a tour and show you guys all the stuff that I'm growing. I'm growing blackberries, blueberries, and cherry tomatoes. Somebody commented that. So yes, I'm growing those too. And I tell you what, it can't say they're doing good or bad. You know what? It's kind of hard starting out because you don't know. But I tell you what, if you see a bee flying towards your plant, then that's a good thing. Like I saw a bee, and I was like, oh wow, it's a bee, so it's coming to pollinate the tomato plant. And not long after that, I started knowing some flowers coming up from the plant, so that was a really good sign. I got a Roma tomato plant by accident, and I meant to get a cherry tomato plant. Yeah, so I'm like, what I'm gonna do with Roma tomatoes? I'll find a way to use them somehow. I don't know. I never really got them in the past, but some people love them, so we'll see. Hey, what's up, Sunshine Experience? Thanks so much for joining the chat and watching the live stream. But I have been on probably a little bit too long now, so I don't want to take too much of your time. I just want to thank you all so much for joining and for getting this channel to 2,000 likes, and to encourage you, to motivate you to go ahead and start that garden, because like Skinny Boy Randy says, nobody got money to be buying all this stuff when you can grow it yourself. So how did the Texas snows treat your plants? You know what? When that happened, I brought all of my plants inside. So at least, yes, I brought all of my plants inside, so I did not have to deal with that. I did not want anything to die. I'm growing tomatoes, strawberries, blueberries, kale, spinach, potato, pumpkin, cantaloupe. Yes, Jackie, go ahead then. Go ahead, Jackie. Yeah, I had to bring everything in. I brought everything in. In fact, I had this elephant ear plant that still managed to die during the winter. It was not outside, but I brought it inside. It was a huge elephant ear plant. And I kind of got tired and frustrated with it dying, like inside in my home. I don't know what was wrong with it. So I just put it outside. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna throw this plant away, and that's gonna be it. But then guess what happened? Last week, I went around to the side of the house where I forgot that I put that elephant ear plant, and there were 3 new leaves coming out of that dead plant. I don't know how it happened, but I am so excited, because actually that was like a $50 huge, it was like a huge plant. It was like a 16-inch pot. Like that's how huge that plant was. And I was so sad when it died, but it's coming back. So I'm gonna do the outdoor garden tour, and I'm gonna show you which plant I'm talking about, because I want you all to see that. And you can see it coming out of this dead stump, and it's just crazy how that happened. Let me see, I missed growing tomatoes, basil, and some other plants. That's awesome. My plant came back to itself after, oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Sunshine. Yes. All right, that is so awesome. I'm so excited that you all are having some good experiences and that you're growing your own food. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, without saying anything else, I guess I will let you guys go. I just want to thank you all so much for joining and for helping this channel to get to 2,000 subscribers. We're almost there, so it'll be pretty soon. Thyme onions, perennials, they come back every year. Yes, awesome, they do. Thank you so much, Layla. I really appreciate it. Sometimes I have trouble recording, so that's why it's like some of my latest videos are kind of spaced out. So yeah, thank you all. Have a good one. I will see you next time, and be sure to look out for that tour. Bye now.